Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to take a stupid simple little pattern and see what we can find in it. Stick around, let's find out. Okay, so this is the pattern we're going to be working off of. This is just an adaptation or a slight adjustment from what a lot of people call like a blockhead type pattern. As you can see, it's only cut out in this profile dimension. I've got a lot of wood here to play with. I can do a lot of different things with this guy. And, you know, a lot of times when I'm creating a new pattern, you know, I'll do both the front and the side view and cut that on the bandsaw. But sometimes I like to just do, whether that be a profile view or a front view, and cut that out, and then I can play around with it and make adjustments on the fly. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, getting patterns even in both dimensions can be more difficult. I like to use graph paper to keep things straight. But sometimes if you're doing different things, like with a bigger hat or whatever, it can be a little bit more difficult to get that cutout lined up exactly right. And two, this method just allows me a little bit more freedom to make adjustments. I'm not locked into, you know, just one thing. So I could take this one pattern and carve several different figures out of it. What I'm going to be carving today is, you know, a grumpy old man. I kind of developed this pattern about a year or so ago. And I just at the time I was on a kick where I wanted to take simple patterns and make them as dynamic as I possibly could. So in playing around, this is what I came up with. I'm going to adjust my camera just a touch there. There we go. That's a little bit better. I couldn't see what I was doing all that well. I made this one, so this is out of a 2x2 by 6-inch tall block of wood. This pattern, which if you're interested in carving this, the pattern will be available. You can check the link down below for my Patreon. This will be available for anyone. This isn't any kind of pattern that I took a long time to develop. So I'm making this one available to anyone. Just click the link for my Patreon down below and you can find it. You know, as always, if you would like to drop a buck or two my way, I'm certainly not going to turn it down. It's greatly appreciated, but there's no obligation to do that. So I'm going to leave, as you can see, the area for the feet here is incredibly thick. And I made it that way on purpose so I could leave a little bit of a base on this guy. And that's probably where we're going to start. It's just by isolating that base. As always, whenever we start on a project like this, step one is going to be blocking in. So we want to get, sorry y'all, it is bone dry here and my allergies have not let up for about the past 3 months. It's been rough. We want to block in all of our major body parts. That is going to make getting those details down later much, much easier. You know, I don't care if you're carving a full figure pattern like this, if you're just carving a little head or whatever, the first step should always be blocking in. So I've got my feet set in from this base just a little bit. And, you know, we don't have to take it far at this point. We're going to do a lot more work on that here very soon. The next thing I want to do is isolate this head from the shoulders. I'm going to go up to, we'll use this one. This is a 3/8 number 9. Anything like this will work. I just want to get a good bit of separation here, and I'm going to give myself space to work for the next step. Now, when I'm blocking in a wider pattern like this, you'll reach a point where you can't get that tool in there quite as far. You know, I see I'm already starting to bottom out, and I haven't even gone a 1/2 inch. So when I get to that point, I've got the room to work that I need. So we'll just leave that be for now. We can, if you want to take it, you know, take it a little bit farther, step up a slightly larger gouge, whatever you got. And that'll buy us a little bit more room to get that, get the belly of that gouge down in there and let it eat. We've gone about that far. And of course, you know, that's nowhere near what we're going to need for the neck. You know, this guy's neck's going to be fairly narrow. It's going to be way down in here somewhere. And that's probably still going to be wider than we need. But the reason I wanted to clear that space is I want to narrow this head down. So I'm going to just make myself a mark about there. Well, before I do that, we got to decide. Do we want this guy looking straight on? Do we want him looking over to one side or the other? And I think I want to move his head just a little bit and have him looking to the side. So I'm going to come off of that center line. That's about, I don't know, roughly 3/8 of an inch. It doesn't matter. Whatever you think is appropriate. And I'm going to draw in a center line for the top of the head like so. And then we'll make the center line for the back of the head like that. So now, what I need to do is I need to give myself some marks for the side of the head, the width that I think it needs to be. And we're going to go about like that. And you can double check to see how well you're matched up. And I'm not matched up all that well here, but we're also going to slow roll this and kind of sneak up on it. I'm going to use my my eraser here. You can always use a knife. You know, we're cutting with the grain. It's not a difficult cut. And I might actually end up coming back to it, but I do like to use this thing to remove large bits of wood. And what I'm going to aim for is just to make a straight line. Well, tell you what, we'll just go to the knife. I want to make a straight line right down that line that we made for the outside of the head. I'm not worried about a hard stop cut in this area yet. We'll clear all that out for the neck on down the road. I just want to get something that looks, I guess I could have brought this line down so I could see what I'm doing. And you do have to, when you're doing this, look at this from several different angles. So I'm pretty close to my line right up here at the front, but I can see that I've got a good bit of wood bulging out right there. And it's not critical to get that even yet, but it will help me to see the overall piece coming together if I can get that as close as possible. So we'll work about like so. Now we need to bring this side down as well. This side's going to be a little bit tougher just because of the way it's positioned. I don't have quite as much room to work, and I guess while I'm thinking about it, let's put our lines in here. All right. And this corner needs to go away. So let's trim that back. And we also need to bring this corner back just a little bit more. And while we're working in this area, we can shape the back of the head I'm not aiming for perfectly round just yet, but I just want to get it ballpark correct. Bring that side up a little bit more to match. When you're turning a head like this, you got to bear in mind that just like everything else, like our head doesn't sit on our neck like a swivel. So when we turn the head, you got muscles all down through the neck and the upper back and the shoulders and everything that have to move correspondingly. We're in the ballpark now. We're good enough that we can move on. So that's what we look like from the top. And one thing that you do need to kind of bear in mind at this point is making sure the sides of the head here are pretty close to parallel. They don't have to be perfectly, but pretty close to parallel and the same width. So we'll check these planes. So this plane is considerably larger than that one. So we'll just need to widen it out just a touch, and we can actually shrink this one down a touch as well, just to get them near the same. I got too much going on here, y'all. All right, so there's that. There's our head blocked in. Now let's move down to the shoulder and arm areas. One thing I want to be mindful of here is right here where these elbows are, I want that to be the widest part of the body. So I want to start right above those elbows. And I'm just going to take a slice and cut all the way up so that I push that elbow out. Do the same thing on this side. And for the lower half, I want it to go in the opposite direction. So, well, one thing we can do is knock these corners off right here. We don't need all of that wood right now, so that's less we got to cut on this next step. We can knock that corner down. We'll do the same thing on this side. And I want to determine, before I move down here, I want to determine how I want these feet to set. And I think I want to make the toes splayed open. I'll have his legs together, but with his toes opened up. So that means the foot we got to shape up a little bit, but it's going to be pointed out, kind of like so. So that means we've got to get these heels. They're going to be stuck together, but that foot is going to set at an angle like that. So we got to trim all this wood up back here. And so I don't knock the corner off my base, I'm going to put a good strong stop cut in right there. I'm just going to go a little bit at a time, kind of sneaking up on it. Until I get most of this foot angled in that direction. See what I'm saying? And you're going to have little scars and stuff down here on this base. Don't worry about that right now. We'll clean all that up later on. Do the same thing on this side. So a nice, strong stop cut. And we'll start removing that wood. All right, that's pretty close to where I want it. Now, if you can see this chunk of wood right back here, that's actually going to be his hands. These arms are going to come in at an angle, like so, but I want to leave plenty of meat back here to get these hands in. And I'm just going to bring it down on that same plane that I just laid out. And I'm doing a little bit of a roll cut right there so that I can make sure I keep those elbows pointed out. This side's a little bit more difficult just because of the way I'm having to attack it, but I'll just take smaller bites until I sneak up on that plane that I'm wanting to get on. All right, so same thing. This elbow is going to be the widest part. I've got to taper this torso in this way to push those elbows out. So we'll just keep knocking those corners back. And I want to leave most of this area here alone for the time being, right here in the midsection, because I want him, he's going to be an old man. He's going to have a little bit of a poochie belly sticking out there. There we go. I hope you can see that I'm taking long, broad cuts here because I want to keep, we got to be mindful of the bone structure that's going on underneath this piece. So, you know, he's got, I don't remember bone names. Femur, is that right? No, femur's in the leg. Sorry. Whatever this bone is up here in the upper arm. I should know this crap, but I don't, so forgive me. You know, these bones have to remain straight. Same thing down here in the legs. And no matter what I do here, like I've got bone structure that's going to determine how he's standing. Now I can shift some things, like with his hip. I can make one hip slightly, well, for this one I want to go the opposite direction. No, I had that right. Since he's looking over to his left, that shoulder is going to be slightly higher than the right. And if I wanted to make this hip, his right hip slightly higher, that gives me some movement in another plane. Before I start working on that though, we're gonna just take a V-gouge and separate these feet just a little bit. Again, this is just for visual. I'm not, approaching anywhere near the final final form. It just helps me to be able to see everything and understand where it's all going. All right. So I need to start blocking in these arms, and he's not going to have super big arms. His back of his hand is going to rest about there. Something like that. Once again, you can double check your width, or you can use even the tip of your knife as a gauge, since you got a flat surface to work off of. We'll make this one just a touch bigger. Something like that. There it is. So I'm just going to isolate these with soft V. You could use any gouge you want to. I wouldn't use a V-gouge at this point, just because we're going to end up shifting and moving these pieces a lot before it's all said and done. And if you use a V-gouge, that hard channel is going to kind of lock you into one spot. With this soft V, if I don't like where things are positioned, I can always move it. And I can see that his legs are far wider than I want them right now. But before I go to cutting on that, I want this guy to have like a longer jacket on. Somewhere about like that. So I'm gonna, once again, use the soft V and just isolate that area so that I know I've got the wood there for it later. We're going to adjust it, but if I prepare for it now, I won't be scrambling later to try to fit it in. So I want to taper the legs from here down to his ankles. Something like so. And of course that's going to, you're going to have to play with the position of the feet a little bit, but I'll show you how to do that. And one thing we can go ahead and do is isolate those feet from the legs. Once again, just with a soft V. And we'll just taper that down. We still got plenty of wood down here for his feet to make adjustments later on. And that's pretty close to where I want it for now. Trim his feet up just a touch more back here. Just on the heel area. Okay. We'll go back to this 3/8 gouge, and we're just going to clean out some wood right there between, on the inside of that elbow, between his arm and his torso. And that'll set us up for a step that's going to be coming up here soon. I do want to shape up his torso just a bit. There we go. Now let's figure out how wide we're going to make these arms and sketch that in. And we'll go about like so. That's going to be maybe a 1/2 inch. Thereabouts. I'm just going to sketch it in on both sides. Now, one thing I want to be mindful of when I'm doing this part is I don't want to cut any of this wood out right here. This area has to be left alone for the time being, for what I have in mind. We'll just take a gouge and scoop all that out. And these arms are going to end up being oversized for what the finished product's going to look like. But if I start with more wood than I need, I don't run into as many problems down the road when it comes to shaping these things up. All right. And we're going to come back right in here and scoop out a little bit more wood, just on the inside of that elbow. All right. So he is blocked in for the most part now. You can see, you kind of get an idea of what the final piece is going to look like, but I haven't taken the time to shape up the legs or do anything like that. Everything is still square and blocky. I still have a ton of wood left to remove. I'll get a little bit more inside here. But same thing, I'm staying outside, staying proud of those lines that I drew, leaving plenty of wood in there. So now we can move on to starting to shape all of this up. This foot's just a touch wider than the other one. I'm just going to trim that down just a bit. something like that. All right, so let's start with these legs. Now, this guy is going to have a belly that kind of hangs down about like so. His belt is going to tuck up underneath there. And of course, this jacket's going to hang down over. I'm going to take his Softy and just outline that belly just a bit. Once again, so I can make sure that wood is there. And I can block in the bottom part of this jacket as well. And I can also take a V-gouge, and I'm just going to split right down the center of those legs. Not too deep. It gives me a line to work off of. Now back here, that jacket's going to be right about the bottom of his hands, and his butt cheeks are going to be right up in here somewhere. We can split those legs going back that way. Now I want to knock all these corners off of the legs. My end goal is to make these legs round. And to make a square object round, the first thing you want to do is make it octagonal. And see how it gives me these facets here, here, and here. If I start by making it octagonal, then all I've got to do is keep working those facets down until I get it round. Now, it's not going to be perfectly round. Like, I'm not going for a circular cross section. It's actually going to be, somewhat elliptical, but it's going to have a rounder appearance. Now, if you wanted to make this a flat plane carving, you easily could, but you still need to knock these corners off. And really and truly, from there, it would just be a matter of making those long planes, which you've already got a pretty good basis for. Go right here to crotch, and we're going to make let's get that crotch trimmed down a little bit. And we're going to make a Y cut right here. And then we'll go right inside that cut. And once again, just make a long plane all the way down to his feet. Now, right here, don't try to make this too deep. You will end up with little splinters back in here that you can't get cleaned out. You're going to make a ton of knife scars, and I don't really have a secret to tell you on how to do that. You just have to develop a feel for it. And I want to make this plane here. I'm going to shift it over to the side a little bit because since his toes are pointed out, those kneecaps are going to follow the toes. Like so. And we're just going to keep following those facets around, trimming them down. Until we get these legs pretty round. Clean that little bit out right there. Just a nice, easy sliver. So it's like that. Right in here, we can do a little chip cut just to provide a little bit of a shadow. Not really trying to divert anybody's eyes to his crotch, but you know, just add a little shadow in there. All right. So now comes the fun part. We need to block in his arms in the same manner. But because of the way his arms are sitting, I want to have a little bit of daylight poking through right here on the inside of his elbows. So, it's gonna knock that corner off right there just a little bit. So, how do I do that? Well, this is a method I learned from watching Mitch Cartledge. I'm just gonna take a small gouge. Now, if you try to do this with just a knife, you can get it right, but this makes life so much easier. If you take a gouge and just kind of sneak up on either side here and clear out as much wood as you can right there in the crook of that elbow. And you're gonna come to the back side and do the same thing. And I still got a good bit more wood than I need right here in the middle of his back. But we'll get that going here shortly. What you're gonna do, well, I'll tell you what, before I go too much farther right there, let me get that trimmed down. There we go. You will eventually feel this gouge start to break through. And we're almost there. I can feel these wood fibers loosening up. This veiner is still got a pretty heavy bevel. So if I take a finer tool like a dockyard, a lot of times I can get that wood cut out of there easier. I just don't like to do that heavy initial cut with it because, you know, these dockyards are a little bit more fragile tool. go. And it probably doesn't show up on film here, but I can see daylight through there now. See how that tool goes right through? That's what I end up with. We're going to repeat that process on this side. And when you want to be sure when you're doing this, you stay inside of where you got that arm blocked in. I want to leave all of the wood for the arm alone right now. Step up or step down to this little dockyard here. And I want to be sure that I'm not cutting back into the inner part of this elbow here. That's a spot that's easy to take wood from. And what you're going to do is you're going to end up making that arm pencil thin in the end. So I want to make sure I'm concentrating that cutting from the torso side. And then just, occasionally cleaning out chips from the top side, but not doing any heavy cutting there. And I'm not, when I work with this dockyard, like I'm not jamming it in there and torquing it around, because I'm not trying to chip the edge or anything. But I'm not worried about like super clean cuts right here. There we go. Got it pop through. So that gives us daylight, and we still got, pretty chunky arms. We got plenty of wood left to work with there. So now we need to get the area where his hands go trimmed up, shaped up. We want to make that hand set just a little bit proud of where that jacket is. And as I'm doing that, I'm leaning this V-tool over on its side and using one of the wings kind of like a chisel. So I'm cutting more from one side. That way I leave wood on those hands, and I'm kind of rounding this torso over. And that's still a touch wide, but that's all right. I want to be sure I give this guy shoulders so we don't carry those armpits all the way up to the side of his body, or up here. He's got to have a shoulder joint in there. Don't want him to look like a Lego man. Again, I'm still avoiding that belly area. Just kind of doing a roll cut right above it. Make sure I leave wood there. And now we'll shape these arms up. Now be careful, take small bites here. Once you get these arms separated, it is easy to end up making these joints paper thin. We want to avoid that right now. Again, we're starting off with these arms being square. Right here in these corners, we can do just a chip cut. Again, I want to leave the wood for the hands alone. So I'll make sure I got it there in the future. Bug season's here. I got a fly in the house. Sounds like a B-52 bomber running through the place. That's always fun. Dogs love sky raisins. And I know his wrist is going to be about there. And I can actually make these hands a little bit wider than the wrist is. So I want to just isolate that with a V-tool. And we're going to take the arm from square to octagonal. Be mindful of your grain direction here. Always cut downhill when you're making these cuts. Now I can see this lower arm needs to be lengthened out a bit, but I got to do that slowly. And it doesn't take much. That one cut got me pretty close. This one's a little bit worse. One thing I can do now, bring this armpit up to about right there. Now the inside of the armpit is not an angular cut. So I find it easier just to do this with a little dockyard gouge. If you don't have one, you know, that's fine. It's not a critical thing unless you're planning on entering in a show. But that is one thing that that will get called out by the judges. This one's pretty close to where it needs to be. We've already been at this for an hour. All right. So let's lay in the sides of our jacket. There it is. And we can start to shape this belly up. We'll carve for a little while longer and see how far we get. We might end up having to make this one a two-parter just to, I still got a good bit of carving left to do here. I'll make the bottom of that jacket flare out just a bit. Like so. And I think on the original one, I actually put a vest on him. If you wanted to do that, you know, by all means, add one in. Same thing here. I want to make this jacket flare out just a touch at the bottom. I want to make sure I put those pants well underneath it. And I still got wood here. I want to make a little bit of a flat spot so I can put a belt in. Carry that vest on over just a little bit more. Tuck it inside this jacket. Something like that. All right. to taper these legs in a little bit more. Bring these feet down just a touch as well. Something like so. There we go. Hit a rough spot in the wood there. Wanted to chip out on me, but we'll clean that up. And of course, you know, that makes the back of that leg kind of goofy, but we'll fix that here in just a second. So we want to bring that down to match. I guess one thing I've never asked of you guys as an audience, on a piece like this, would you prefer a series like of 2 or 3 installments of an hour to an hour and a half each, or just plow through and get it done? You know, like the gunslinger and the sled dragging Santa that we did. Those pieces like that have got to be a series. Like there's no way I can sit down and carve all of that at one time. But something like this is a little bit more straightforward and simple. What would be your preference? I don't mind doing it either way, as long as I've got the time. You know, I may not always have the time to dedicate to doing it all in one whack. I think today I could probably carve a good bit, but that may or may not always be the case. But just curious, you know, what you all think, what you'd like to see. You know, it may or may not always be the way that it gets done, but I would like to keep my audience happy if I can. Let's get back to cleaning up these arms. This is just going to be just taking out a little bit at a time. And once again, I'm just looking to make these arm cross sections square for right now. You know, the way I cleared that wood out with the gouge, it left some rough spots in there that I got to get rid of. I want to make sure I'm keeping these arms pretty even across, you know, from one to the other. Lengthwise, widthwise, all that jazz. The fly just buzzed me again. Can y'all hear that in the background? That thing's loud. I don't really want any angular cuts right there, so I'm gonna use a gouge to kind of scoop that out. All right, now I think we can, I can't get in there with that V-gouge. Let's go with a little bit smaller one. Just clean that wood out right there. Now this kind of pose isn't super high on the difficulty level. You just gotta take your time with it. It doesn't make for the best tutorial-wise, the best subject matter, just because it does take so much time to clean all this up. But, you know, it's whatever. If I were chasing YouTube fame, I guess it'd be one thing, but I'm not. I'm just trying to offer a helping hand here to some other carvers. Hopefully you can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here, just a little bit at a time, working up on it. And as long as I can get in the ballpark, I'll probably save the full cleanup for off camera, just so we can move on and get to the fun stuff. That's not bad right there. All right, let's start in on this head. So we got him looking off to this side. We're gonna say he's gonna have a hat on, so his eye line's gonna be down just a touch lower. And we're gonna carry that line all the way around here for his ears. For those of you curious, I'm down about 5/8 of an inch from the top. And we're gonna make his nose about there. Same thing, we're gonna carry that line all the way around. Now, I'm actually going to, here on the sides, because I want him to have slightly oversized ears, I'm gonna make that line just a touch wider in either direction. Not by much, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna take my soft V. I'm gonna block in those ears. As you can see, I'm gonna come in a fair bit. I'm gonna shrink this head down considerably so that those ears stand out a good bit. We just kind of eyeball it, make sure that's all looking the same. Got a little bit of a ridge right there that's throwing my eyes off. Just want to clean that up. That'll give me my center line. We'll do the same thing here on the bottom. I'm just gonna clear that wood out from underneath. Now I'm making sure not to cut up into the ear right here. I want to leave that wood alone. Now, the front of his ear should set right over the midpoint of the neck. Now, with his exaggerated stance, his head pushed forward a good bit, I'm actually going to bring that up just a little bit more. So we'll say about like that. We'll use the same tool, that soft V, and just block that in. Come over here, do the same thing. Now, I don't know how well it shows on camera, but I'm using the side of that soft V to cut into this plane of the face rather than cutting back into the ear. I want to leave that ear alone. For the back of the ear, we'll make it about yay wide. Once again, we're just going to block it in. Anytime you add ears to a carving, to me it helps to do this block in phase and just leave them as big rectangles for the time being. We'll shape them up here in the near future, but that way I've got plenty of wood to work with. I can look down two planes and kind of eyeball. Look at it from the top, make sure they're pretty close to being even. Nobody's gonna care if it's off slightly, but I do find that it helps me visually if I can get them pretty close to even now. I'm gonna flatten off the back of the head just a little bit right there so I can get that plane going in the right direction. There we go. All right. Let's get my angles back right. There we go. We'll pop in the bottom of this nose. Now, I want this guy to have a hat, whatever you call it, a flat cap or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to put myself a mark in about there. I'm going to make a nice deep stop cut. I'm going to come right above the tip of that nose and I'm going to roll back to that stop cut. That way, I end up with something like that. I'm gonna give myself a center line once again. Now let's shape the sides of the head up just a touch. Something like that. Still, actually, you know what? After looking at it from the side, I got a little bit more wood there than I need, so I'm gonna kind of reshape these planes. All I was doing there is I had more wood out front than I needed. I'm gonna leave the hat alone for right now. Make sure I got plenty of wood there. But I'm gonna come back from that center line at roughly a 45-degree angle on either side. Kind of like so. And we'll narrow that nose down just a touch. So we got our center line running right through there. So now let's put that nose in. And I want him to have, you know, a pretty substantial nose. Which does make getting back in here to put the eyes in a little bit more difficult. But we'll get there here shortly. Bring that stop cut for the nose back just a touch more. And something like that. So there's my profile. Bring the sides of these faces in just a little bit. Man, this wood's got some bad spots in it. There we go. And we still got some pretty doggone chunky ears. But as always, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I'll start shaping up his jawline a bit here. Now we're gonna come out here and form the wings of this nose. Like so. Pop that chip out. Do the same thing on this side. Pop that chip out. I'm gonna go right above that nose and make a stop cut in, and then just a flat cut straight down like that. I'm gonna go, let's see if I can zoom this in so you guys can see it. Nope, that's a little too far. I'm gonna take the tip of that knife, I'm gonna put it right on the side of the nose here. I'm gonna do a scoop cut back to right there on that eye plane. And we'll take out a little bit of sliver right there. Come over here on the other side, do the same thing. About a 45-degree angle. I'm just gonna come back, and I don't know how well you can see it. I'm kind of rolling that knife around. And then we'll pop that out right like so. I want to make sure I get these eye planes fairly even. Again, this is just ish. That puts us in the ballpark. I want to round over this dental mound. So the dental mound should have 3 facets. You got 1, 2, 3. And they should curve around that mouth. That's another one of those structural things that we're bound to. Our dental mound doesn't sit flat on our face. It curves around underneath our nose. This guy's gonna have a nice deep scowl. So we want to put that in nice and heavy. We can clean up that plane here. Well, before I move on to that, let's shape these ears up. So I'm gonna knock this corner off, I'm gonna knock this corner off, and I'm gonna come about halfway down, and I'm gonna make a long cut all the way down to that point. So knock that corner off, like so. I'm gonna knock this corner off, like so. And then I'm gonna go right there, make a long cut, straight down. And I can flatten this off as well. I'm gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. Take this corner off. Take that corner off. We'll come right about the midpoint, make a long cut, straight down, trim that out. And just double check, make sure we're pretty close to the same. Now his ears are hanging down pretty low, but that's fine. We'll probably end up trimming them up a little bit. Now I'm gonna come about 3/4 of the way from the bottom, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a kind of a scoop cut and get these ears more flush with the face. like that. Now, if you wanted to give them sideburns or anything, right now would be the chance to do that. And I usually find when I start doing this part that I need to bring these ears back just a touch. That's not a spot where we've got a hard separation. So I use a gouge of some sort to do that. And then I'm gonna come right there at the bottom of that ear. I'm gonna grab a little bit larger gouge. We'll grab this one. I'm gonna stick that gouge in and go right down to his shoulder area. That'll give me my jaw line. Now I can take this same gouge and round this neck over. And we'll just take it all the way around. Back of his head's still pretty flat, so we can shape that up. And I want to trim up underneath those ears, so I want them to stand out just a bit. That knife tip should just graze right underneath that ear. And I'm gonna give this guy a mustache, but of course I want that thing to be hanging down on the corners. So it looks like he's got a deep scowl going on. And we need to trim up his chin. And we'll shape up that jawline just a touch more. Bring this up just a bit more. There we go. And right here at the temples, we need to squeeze those in just a bit. I want to allow for that hat to sit on, or the ears to sit outside of that hat. So make sure you put a pretty good stop cut in there. And you can bring these temples down as far as you want them. If you prefer to do this step with a gouge, that's fine too. We'll round these jaws off clean up that rough spot in the wood. So I'm going right beside where I put that eye plane and just doing a roll or a swooping cut up. And that pops his ears out even more. Just keep shaping the neck up. Like so. Make his ears stand out just a touch more. I'm gonna put myself a stop cut in there. There we go. Same thing on this side. All right. So I'm just spitballing here. I got another solid hour of carving left to do on this guy. What time? Yeah. Let's carve on for a little bit longer and just see what we can make happen. We're starting to get into the details portion here. While we're working on it, let's just finish up this head. So, since I want this guy to have a scowl, I want that brow ridge to be angled down. Something like that. So I'm gonna take a nice deep chip out of that inside corner because we're making that the deepest part of the face there. Do the same thing on this side. Nice deep chip. Like so. We're going to carry that brow ridge out just a bit farther. And it doesn't really matter if these are perfectly even. You know, I've got this side of the nose pulled up a little bit higher, this eye scrunched down a little bit more, and this side of the mustache is pulled up a tad higher as well, which makes it all work. he's got some pretty heavy jowls there. That's one of the beauties of carving these old men, is you can manipulate so much and make nice, deep, heavy cuts, and it just works. You know, if you wanted to change this to a happier old man, it's just a matter of changing up that brow line and that smile line, and it would work just as well. All right, that's what I'm looking for. Now we want to get these eyes the proper width. It's gonna be too wide. Let's bring it in just a touch more. I'm going to this outside corner and take a chip out right there. And then right here in this upper corner, we're going to take another chip. Just pop that out. Clean all that wood out. Come over here, do the same thing, outside corner. Take a nice chip out of there. This upper corner, right here, we'll take a chip out. And then down in this bottom corner, we'll pop one out as well. And just smooth everything off. Round that eyeball all over, like so. And since he's got that scowl, we're going to bring that brow line right down to the top of his nose, right there. Just round the hat over. If you want to shape it up a little bit, that front of it was a little bit too sharp of a point. We'll just, that looks better. You can kind of do some roll cuts right there, just to give it a little bit more shape and a little bit more interest. All right, so this jacket needs a collar. Somewhere about like that. The collar on the back isn't going to be as thick or as wide, I guess, would be the better phrasing of that. Bring it right around like so. We'll do a chip cut right here. Oh, I need to get my stop cut in deep enough. That's all right. We can clean that up. Same thing on this side. Do a chip cut out right here. And a chip cut right there. It gives us a collar for his jacket, and we can shape up underneath it here to make that stand out just a little bit more. There we go. Now he needs a collar for his shirt as well. I'm gonna take a nice deep chip out right here. Take another chip right here. And one over here. Right there at the overlap for his vest. We'll take another chip out. And we'll just clean all that up. Oh yeah, forgot his eyelids. So the eyelids, when you're doing something like this, they're not going to go all the way to the inside of the eye. That eyebrow is going to cover that up. So it's going to be something like that. And then the bottom eyelid just straight across. And you just kind of carefully got to slice in there and get rid of all those little facets. This outside corner, once again, you take a chip out. If you want to give them some nostrils. Take that dockyard, go up and around. We'll use that same tool right there for the ears for whatever you call the little flappy doohickey thing. Somebody told me a while back. I don't remember. And we'll just clean that out. Get rid of all that wood in there. Now right here, I'm gonna take a swipe across with that gouge just to separate that out. And then I also like to come in this corner here and do a chip cut out like so. And then this corner down here, do the same thing. Just take a chip out right there. Just leaves a nice shadow. I don't really get too in the weeds on ears besides just doing that. I could probably stand to learn a thing or two about carving them, but this works for me. Let's take a swipe right across there. And we'll come right here with a nice deep chip. Right here with a nice deep chip. Need to bring the back of his hat all the way around. All right, so let's carve his hands right quick, and I think we'll call this guy good. Good enough. Y'all have seen me carve feet plenty of times. Hopefully you get the gist of what I'm going for there. Little details like buttons and, you know, a belt. I've done that before. Check out that Gunslinger series if you're interested to know how I would do those. But I'm just gonna carve his hands now. And the way I've got it laid out here, I want these thumbs to sit about here, and then the hands are curled up kind of like so. Well, about like that. So the first thing I need to do is just push that wood right there in the center back just a bit. All right. Now I've got the two hands separated. The thumbs are going to be right in between. I'm going to take a nice deep chip right there at that center point to separate those thumbs. Something like that. And then I'm going to come right on either side of those hands. Put a stop cut. And a relief cut to separate those out. Now, we got to understand the way this hand's going to work. So the back of the hand is sitting up against his hips here. So that's plane number one. Plane number two is going to be curled up underneath here. Plane number three is basically here, and then four is going to be about right there. So I'm going to take the end of that ridge right there off. So that's going to be plane four. Now the tips of these fingers are going to be right there. So I need to scoop all of that wood out right above it. And I can kind of shape all that wood right there around. Same thing over here. And I'm going to take it all the way down here because I want to push that thumb back even farther. And I'm starting off here with a 5mm. I'm going to step that down here shortly. Probably to a 3 if I can put my hands on it. And of course I can't. There it is. It was the 5th one I tried out of 5 tools. Just gonna make that line a little bit deeper in there. Now we can separate those two thumbs. All right, so I've got those thumbs split, and they're going to hang down pretty close to the end of where those fingers curl up. So I'm going to do a stop cut right, or not a stop cut, but a chip cut out right here just to separate those out a little bit. And I don't have to take it all the way to his butt here because, you know, his jacket's going to hang down. And then for this area right here, I'll find the right tool. I'm just going to take a small gouge like so. I think I want to bring these fingers over just a little bit more so I got more room for his thumbs there. Again, I'm gonna do a chip cut right there, just separate those thumbs from his fingers. And we're going to round the back of these hands over a little bit. Round, knock these hard corners off all the way around. Clean that up a bit more. Keep scooping. So now it's just a matter of separating these fingers. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 fingers on either hand. And yeah, we want to make those fairly even. If you want to, and I may even do it, if you want to shape these fingers up a little bit, of course they're going to kind of round over on either side. Kind of like that, and like that. And then we'll split the fingers apart up here at the tips, like so. And kind of shape this thumb up a little bit as well. And then right here in this, on the outside portion, I'm going to do a chip cut here, like so. And then I'm gonna do another chip right there. Just give the impression of his fingers being balled up. I'm leaving this a little rough right now, but hopefully you see where I'm going with it. So there's that one. And we'll just repeat the same step over here. But I think I'm gonna call this video there. Hopefully you guys have gotten enough out of what I've done here to be able to follow along. From here on, it's just cleaning up, doing the little details and such. You know, do what you want there. Have fun with it. Try a lot of different things. But I think I've rambled on long enough here. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but we're probably, honest guy, we're probably pushing 2 hours at this point. So I think that's plenty long enough. So I'm going to mosey on down the trail and leave you guys to it. Again, that pattern, if you want to give us a try, check the video description down below for my Patreon account. It'll be there free for everybody. You don't have to be a paying member to access this particular pattern. So grab it and give it a shot if you'd like. And as always, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate all the support you're giving me. Please do hit that like and subscribe button. It does help this channel out a lot. We've been on a pretty good streak here lately. A lot of new subscribers. And the more we can put it out there, I think the faster that'll grow. And until next time, you know, happy carving, y'all. Bye.